Hey, welcome back everyone, and once again we've got some Tears of Amaterasu for you. This time it's the Unicorn, and we've got two Dynasty cards. Let me just begin by saying it's disappointing that it's two Dynasty cards because Unicorn has crap conflict cards.
Yeah, I agree. Having played a fair amount of Unicorn myself, they have the I Am Ready, which is really good. Then they have and even then you're taking a fate. So like their best card, you're still taking a fate off of one of your characters.
And the one that changes the conflict to military is good.
Yeah, the captive audience. Yeah, I guess
that's about it.
I guess I Am Ready. Like, if you view the card I Am Ready as a card which simply costs one,
it's a good card.
Because then the fate, like, you could have just not put the
but
fate
it's
on
a better card than a one cost card because it's giving you flexibility.
Yeah, whereas you can choose. Yeah. It is a really good card, but yeah, aside from that, yeah, yikes! Like Breakthrough, even out of the core set, I'm not really putting that in my conflict deck.
Way of the Unicorn is okay, but like the other way of cards are far more impactful.
Yeah, it's like Unicorn, you do want to go first, and it's doing what you do want to do, but it's like the Crane and Scorpion one, either like the Crane being honor and the Scorpion dishonor, like that's gonna have a big effect on a conflict. Anyway, I digress. I hope these are some good cards because I like the Unicorn clan, I like the theme, and they are the weakest right now. So hopefully these are some fairly good ones.
We'll kick it off with the Swift Magistrate, 3-cost character. 2 strength, 2 political. That's terrible.
Yeah, for a 3, even for a 3, I would say like even at a 3/3, you'd want like a decent ability, and then just a 2/2 like.
This better have a great ability. It also has 1 glory. I mean, that's okay. I don't think Unicorn care about glory that much.
I'm fine. I think I'm fine with the 1 glory here. I feel like 0 actually might have been fine on this card, but I'm actually glad it's not a 2, because if this is dishonored and this is a 0/0, that's a huge that's a problem.
Bushi traded, Imperial traded, Magistrate traded. It's at least 1 good trait there.
Important to note though that out of the Unicorn clan, this does not have the cavalry trait, which is very significant. You're not going to be able to trigger your stronghold on it. And there's other
cards that buff cavalry or bring cavalry into
cavalry
play.
Reserves springs to mind.
Yeah, actually, cavalry reserves deserves a mention as a good conflict card.
Yeah, you know what? We were forgetting about that. I think that's a good card.
But the ability, it is a passive ability.
Some passive text. Yeah, you're not going to be triggering anything here.
So it's saving you an action window on something potentially.
Yeah, depending on what it does.
While this character is attacking, each other character that has 1 or more fate on it does not count its skill toward the resolution of the conflict. I think it's a really good ability. I mean, if you're like playing a dragon player, your giant guy with 3 attachments on him contributes 0 strength.
I agree.
Your champion contributes 0 strength.
My issue is that this card is only a 2/2. And that they probably have a cheap 2-cost character that's also at least around those stats that probably does not have fate on it. Yes, you're going to be attacking with your other Unicorn characters, and yes, they're cheap and probably don't have fate. So I think it's good.
The problem is that it's forcing you to play in such a way that you put no fate on any of your characters per turn, and that can like eventually lead to you being in a bad situation where you're just totally outnumbered because they have built up.
But the thing is, the Unicorn's also gonna, at least to an extent, not be doing that as well, because they're not just gonna like this.
Yeah, that's true. You're not gonna send every character in with this one.
Well, and you're not gonna send one of your own characters that has fate on it, because that would be useless.
Yeah.
So I think with the Unicorn card pool being what it is, I absolutely think it's gonna see play. Is this card at the level of some of the good 3-cost characters from the other clans? I'm going to say no, I don't think so. I think it's an interesting card that down the line as Unicorn get more and more cards, and you can really build a deck. I don't know. I think this could become better over time. I think
I like it more than you. Like, it's helping you do what you want to do as Unicorn, which is get a quick win.
Yeah,
it's also potentially changing the way your opponent's playing, because you put this down turn 1. Now it's like, oh, do I want to put 3 Fate on my champion, or?
Well, you wouldn't be doing that on the first turn anyway.
Yeah, do I want to put 2 Fate on my champion, or maybe I better like start playing down a ton of like cheaper units and not putting Fate on them?
I feel like a handful of cheaper units is a fairly like standard turn in this game, though. Like,
yeah.
Which is the thing, like, especially on the first turn, like, you don't want you. I think you're gonna put yourself in a bad spot if you only play one character on the first turn. If you don't have a character in your conflict hand, which that could help you.
I agree, but what I'm saying is, like, Unicorn should be able to start stronger than most of the other factions. The problem is that like they don't win fast enough, and then they kind of suck. But what this is doing is it's negating that, because if your opponent wants to defend your big horde that you're not putting any Fate on, now they're not putting any Fate on their characters. So what usually happens is like the Unicorn player peters out, and now the other person has just built up over time. But if they want to defend you, they're not going to be able to do that anymore.
My argument is that if you are playing this on the first turn, it already costs 3. You need it to stick around, so you're putting at least 1 Fate on it. Say you put 1, now you're at 4. If you're the first player and you have 3 other Fate to spend,
it's not a very big horde.
Yeah, it's still good, because I like the Unicorn 1-cost cards. I like the Moto Youth. I think the Moto Youth is quite good, and I think the Utaku Infantry is pretty good. So I think like it's like, okay, you know what? Like, yeah, if my starting 4 is this 2 Moto Youth and an Utaku Infantry. But the problem is...
Well, I think you ideally pull this on the second turn, and you play out a bunch, put 1 Fate on each of them, and now you're good to go turn 2.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
I think
that relies on like perfect timing for this unit to be really good. Like, probably not going to draw it at the perfect time.
I agree that I think it's really good on the second turn. I think it can be good on the first turn, but then again, it's the problem of that. I don't know. Actually, I'm my opinion. The more I think about it, I do think this is better than I was initially giving it credit for. Because even if you do just attack with this and say a Moto Youth that doesn't have Fate on it,
yeah, you're breaking a province potentially. You're definitely winning the ring, like, most of the time.
Yeah, like...
The other thing is, it's a 2/2, so this might allow you to defend a political challenge as Unicorn.
Yeah, because if they only have characters that have Fate on them, then you're gonna win. I mean, if they see that you have this, because naturally in this game, your Dynasty... When they're playing their Dynasty cards, they'll be able to see yours, so they'll be able to identify that. But if it forces them to play in a bit of a different way, then that's strong, and I think that's good. I think this card is better than I was initially giving credit for. I think I'm just a little hesitant on the card because Unicorn is the worst, and like I don't think this card is just gonna correct that. But I think it's a good card, and I think it makes Unicorn better.
I think it's better than most of the Unicorn cards from the core.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely taking 3 of this.
Oh yeah.
I think it's good. I think this is better than I initially was giving it credit for. I think it's pretty strong.
Now here, we have a card that, are you going to take 3 of this one? 3 Windswept Yurts.
Well, let's see.
Can take 3 of it because it's not unique. So you can have 3 Windswept Yurts on your provinces if you want to lose the game and not playing units.
Then you can play only your Swift Magistrate. That's some great alpha. No, just kidding. Sorry.
Okay, so it's a +1 holding. Pretty standard. Action, sacrifice this holding. Select 1. Each player gains 2 Fate, or each player gains 2 Honor. Refill this province face up. I mean, immediately it seems terrible because both players are getting those things. But it can save you from like an honor loss. So there's that.
I was gonna say Unicorn can find themselves in a bit of honor trouble. They might be getting unopposed challenges against them and other various things.
Yeah, and if your opponent's at like 13 honor, okay, take 2 honor. Like that's not impactful.
Yeah, because it's like, you know what, my 2 honor when I'm at 5 is way more significant than, like you said, your 2 when you're at 10 to 13 maybe. Yeah, I think honor instantly springs to mind. That's good. It's gonna let you bid a bit higher on the dial too, which you tend to want to do. You are giving your opponent 2 as well though, so I'm still a little leery.
Now the other thing you can do with this card is, and it's a little weird that it's a holding, I have to say, if you're using it this way, but you have your holding down, it's face up. Unicorn generally does not pass first, which is a big disadvantage in L5R.
Well, like you're gonna lose a fate.
You have an incentive to pass first, and if your opponent consistently passes first, that starts to build up over the game. But if your opponent passes first, then you might say, okay, take your 2 fate. You can't play Dynasty cards with it this turn. I'm going to take my 2 fate and be able to continue playing Dynasty cards with it. On top of which, I'm refilling this province face up, so I'm giving myself another card to play with that 2 fate.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think this is doing what Unicorn, the theme and the cards of Unicorn are kind of trying to do, in that it's win fast, because like Hal said, if you take your 2 fate and they've already passed and they don't, let's put conflict cards out of the equation here, because yes, they may be able to spend that fate on conflict cards, in which case you're helping them this turn, but if they're not,
typically people aren't putting, like, how many 2-cost conflict cards are people taking? Like, there's a built-in incentive to take the 0s and the 1s just because they're more playable.
So if they've passed first, let's say they spend all their fate on the turn but pass first. They have 1 fate. Now if you're giving them 2 more, you're putting them to 3, which that may be a character. There's 3 cost characters in the conflict deck. Or it may be maybe 2 1-cost cards, maybe. Possibly 3, but that's maybe not the most likely scenario. I think you could still help them that turn, but I think it is generally like, yes, you will have some fate on the next turn, but I'm going to try to win fast and
put you in a bad spot.
Yeah, and like, even though we are going to get to the next turn, because it's literally impossible that you're winning on the first turn, it's, even if they have more fate on the next turn, then they're still limited by maybe the 4 characters they can play, and it's like,
not everyone's playing a swarm, like a swarm deck like you. Like, if you're playing against, like, Dragon or something, they might not be able to capitalize on all that fate you've given them.
Yeah, or if they are, then they're doing so by putting more fate on their characters that they're putting into play, because they have more to spend.
Which makes the Magistrate a better card.
And beyond that, that fate doesn't actually make those characters better on that turn, and if you're trying to win fast,
it doesn't matter that they've invested a lot. And in fact, it might hurt them to invest a lot if you're playing with the Magistrate.
So this is like the Crane cards, in terms of the sense that it's 2 cards that are working well together. We saw that with the Crane, like, Politician and that Keeper only card.
Yeah.
And now it's again 2 cards in the pack that I think, like you said, I think they're working quite well together.
With all that said, I mean, I've been defending the card. I've been coming up with maybe creative ways you can use it to, like, a way that works to your advantage. And I think a Unicorn player is taking this because their Dynasty card pool is really weak. But if this was a card in another clan, and that's changing the context a lot, because the context of Unicorn never really passing first is making the card a little better. But this is a card in another clan. You look at this and say, this card basically says help yourself and help your opponent in equal amount. Why would I take this when there's cards in my deck that just help me?
Yeah, whereas again, and I've seen this said on the forums, that it's the general Unicorn theme, at least early in the game, where it's like, yes, this card seems good, but is it only just good for a Unicorn card? Like, for a Unicorn card, yeah, I'm gonna play it, but... And yeah, it is better in Unicorn with their play style and whatnot, but again, it's just...
It's like, it's rewarding both players at the end of the day, the same amount.
Yeah,
And it's, should I be putting a card in my Dynasty deck if I am blessed with choices, which Unicorn isn't, but why would I want to take a card that helps my opponent an equal amount to myself? Once you strip aside all the context in which you can like game the card to work a little bit more for you.
Yeah, like ultimately if you're a Unicorn player and
you should be able to like work a slight advantage out of the card, but is a slight advantage enough for the card to be in your deck?
No, and that's the problem with Unicorn, where it's like some of these cards are like, yeah, like maybe a bit situational and that, like, yeah, if there's like mobility and these effects and like that's cool, and it's like, it's just not, at this point of the game, it's just not as good as like I could grab a Crane card that just has great political. The political rival is at 6 while it's defending, and it's like, well,
Yeah,
that's just generic.
They're both Dynasty cards. To be more fair,
or that's a conflict card, but so that's not
oh,
very
you're right.
simple, but
to be more fair would be the Artisan Academy. The Artisan Academy just lets me basically have a conflict card after showing it to my opponent. That's not like, okay, it's helping my opponent by giving them knowledge of what might happen to them, but it's not helping my opponent equally.
I would actually argue it's not actually helping your opponent at all, because it's not giving them, well, knowledge is something, but it's like, it's not providing them with an effect that helps them. It's just,
even if you value knowledge, like, knowledge is not equal to tangibly holding an extra card in your hand. This it's an equal thing you're giving to both people.
Because, yeah, it's like, ultimately, knowledge is great, and seeing effects where you see someone's hand, actually, we'll get to the Scorpion cards in a future video, but knowledge is really good, and but yeah, ultimately, it's like, it's not, it could win you the game, but knowledge alone is not, if you don't have the strength, and you don't have the effects to back it, you need to be able to capitalize on the knowledge you have.
And I think it's a fair comparison, because the Artisan Academy is not even one of the better holdings in the core set. Like, it's a weaker version of the Phoenix holding that just lets you draw a card. So it's not as if we're comparing this card to like an exceptional holding. We're comparing this card to a holding that is making the cut and is helping you as a player.
Yeah, one thing I will say about the Artisan Academy is that it's a 1, and the Phoenix holding is a 0, I believe. So it's I definitely think the Phoenix one is better, but like, the Artisan Academy has something that it doesn't. It's increasing strength. But yeah, it is weaker, so.
Yeah, I mean, in spite of the caveats about the cards, I think a Unicorn player is going to like this, just because the cards you're playing with as a Unicorn player are probably terrible, and this is at least giving you some options. Honestly, probably some better cards, so it's going to help you. Is it going to help you as much as the cards some of the other clans have been getting in this pack? No, I don't think so, but it's gonna make your deck a little better.
Yeah, and you know what, if you are a Unicorn player and you're just playing with the core sets at this point of the game, maybe you know what, if you're sticking it out with Unicorn Clan, I respect that, and that's great, and these cards are a little better than a number of the ones we've seen in the core. So if you want to pick up this pack and at least have some maybe slightly better cards, I think the Magistrate is better than the Windswept Yurt. I think the Magistrate is a fairly good card, and play with that. It opens up, well, not even opens up, it just sort of rewards the playstyle you're already playing a little bit. Yeah, I don't know what more to say about it. It's
Yeah, if there's any Unicorn players out there, share your thoughts with us in the comments section. And if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. We appreciate it.
Yeah, as always, thank you, and until next time.